Yeah.
need to know about?
Remington,
How do they do it? Can
come
you
on
do it?
up.
Billy Haynes.
Well,
You guys just wanna bring another chair
All
up
right,
here?
Ben?
Oh, what a guy.
Oh, there you go.
How's it going, guys?
Good.
Okay.
Don't speak at once.
Who's the spokesman?
I guess I'm the presenter of the findings that we just found recently. So basically, we don't know what your expectations is, and we were going to be as proactive as we can, so we went with an 80 by 120 with 16-foot sidewalls with no limitation. It's just the fact that we don't know what is in the future. We had talked about maybe having a daycare in there, which in the state of Kansas for sure, there's 25 square feet per kid if we end up putting a facility together like that. So we didn't want to go any smaller as of right now, but if we're going to facilitate putting a daycare in there, we wanted to make sure we had plenty of room, and then we were going to take our concession stand and stick it in there, and then use the old concession stand for the agents that work out of. But we don't know all your guys' side, and so we just wanted to get sort of a bid together to see what it would look like on money wise, and come and see what we have.
How much of an area do you think the concession stand will take up?
We don't need it any bigger than what it is, so
Probably 14 by 20?
it's probably the,
Yeah, 20.
because that thing's only a square over there,
Yeah.
all center block.
What's the main reason of why you guys are going with 16-foot sides?
So he brought up that it's always easier, instead of expanding, to go up, so if we need storage, we can always have it above.
Yeah.
Because more square footage is just gonna cost us more, so we're gonna go up if we had to.
Yeah.
Sort of like how Pratt has their setup, where above their concessions and everything, that's storage above there.
Yeah.
That was the only reason why the height, and if we need to house it, never know. We would love to have a hold an expo sometime, but that's way down the future.
Okay.
So
Did you get some bids or?
So this is the only one that we have got in. Cody Dick is supposed to be getting one, and I haven't seen it.
I know what it was though.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when he texted to us.
Okay, I didn't get that.
He didn't give us, he didn't send it to us in a copy or anything.
It must be that.
This price is good for 7 days.
Yeah, yeah, I like that too.
That's about how.
So
all
this bed's
construction-
not any good anymore, but
That's about how all construction bids go.
the guy told me that prices are just ridiculous right now too, of course. And so Cody got a bid from Steel Builders Construction out of Great Bend, and same size, 80 by 120 by 16, and it came in at $288,000. But that includes the building, concrete, insulation, and overhead doors. And then he also said that the interior figure is about $50 a square foot. And it says plumbing, electrical not quoted. That's the same. QSI, when I talked to them, they said that their insulation isn't good enough because to have the building heated and cooled too, then we'd have to have it insulated on top of that also. Yeah, on top of that. And they don't do any of the interior finishes too, so we have to find somebody either local or to do the interior work.
What, do you guys have any other sources of funding other than what we're considering contributing? I mean, is there any other way to come up with more money?
Yeah, so basically what we have is, we have an anonymous donor that is ready to put at least, I think she said 25,000 down.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
then we didn't know if, we'd come fully open where we would go shake the bushes on individuals and see if we can get any donations.
Yeah,
But other than
so they
that,
may be able to come up with 50,000 in donations. You know, if you shook some bushes and then you're,
Yeah.
unless somebody just really jumped out, but.
I'm waiting on bids from Chris too.
Yeah.
I just haven't gotten back from him, so, I mean, it'd be nice to keep stuff local.
yeah.
Let's try getting a bid from Shinkle Construction in Great Bend, but every time we called them, they never answer their phone or call
I
back.
think Shinkle's pretty busy.
Yeah.
We're probably looking at a year and a half out.
Okay.
I wonder what kind of, I mean, are you guys, as if you're thinking about some kind of a daycare or something like that, I mean, would, are you guys figuring on tinning the whole inside and then insulating it to where you can heat and cool it? Because I mean, if there's any kind of a daycare, they're gonna have to do something like that.
Right, and I didn't know, basically if it had needed to be, because I didn't ever expect to do the whole thing. I would do like a inner partition, so then the back part would be like that, and then the front side where we have all the showing spot would be more of a barn area,
Yeah.
because that's where you're gonna have most of your traffic and doors open and out closing.
Yeah,
So really Cody's bid isn't much different if you add in this 5-inch concrete
Mm,
floor.
yeah.
And the concrete, they're not much different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're,
Well, especially with going with steel builders, I mean, you're up with a steel building instead of post frame too. I
yeah.
think that'd be a better option to go that way anyways.
yeah,
We can work my shop down here, you know, like you're saying, the front part that you're not, it's just like the show part, we just have the tinned up, you know, the walls, and then
Yeah.
the ceiling just has that other insulation.
Same with bubble wrap.
Because I think like down at Pratt, I think they only put 10 up about like 8 to 10 foot.
Yeah, they put like a short wall up.
Yeah, so I don't see any reason to 10 the entire thing anyways.
Yeah.
yeah.
So you still have to get a bid from an electrician as well as a plumber?
Yeah, I mean, they're talking $50 a square foot interior for probably everything finished.
That's what
I would think that would, yeah, 'cause that's,
I'd wonder if you guys could do something with the high school carpentry class over there. I know they took on a little bit of projects for like building a concession stand area or something like that.
Yeah,
I mean, it helped the school out,
Yeah.
cheapen stuff up for you guys.
yep.
I think the main cost on this stuff anymore is materials, just went outrageous.
yeah.
I don't think it's going down anytime soon.
Yeah.
No, and on the 21st Central side, we are supposed to start checking in on that daycare deal, because they, over in the other part of the world over there, they're proactive in setting up daycare, so I can't think of her name right now, but she was getting with Brian about that, and Brian down and seeing what we need and everything.
Okay.
It'd be nice to use it as a venue eventually.
Well, that's what we're really shooting for, is
Pratt
that,
does, you know, they rent theirs out for
Yeah, I would think,
weddings and everything.
I would think you'd have it rented all the time.
yeah, I mean,
That was my main deal about building something. I'm all for building something. I just wanna make sure it's multi-use enough that we're getting our money's worth as far as, which I think something over in Stafford, you know, we have the annex, or there's several places around that people can rent, St. John, but I think it would be well used, for sure.
I think in Stafford, like, the only thing you can
the
really use.
VFW is hot all the time.
Yeah, it doesn't have
There's
AC.
no rack.
Did you say
Yeah.
that Kinsley,
Kinsley has a nice fair building. Do you guys think of Kinsley's,
I-
Edwards County?
I will be going over there shortly.
Yeah, maybe we oughta.
why don't you
well, I
take a
guess-
peek?
See if you can look at the building, seriously. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, I've
Do you know
heard
when they
about it.
built that?
It's been there as long as I remember.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if it was recent construction.
No,
Okay.
I mean,
Well,
it's-
this kind of gives us an idea on what you guys were thinking.
Yeah, I
Of
mean,
course, we've got, you know, other other requests for the funding that we have coming to us, so we just have to figure out how we want to allocate everything, but this gives us an idea on what you're thinking. In a perfect world, I guess.
Yeah.
I wonder what it would cost to tear down that old building. Are you thinking about leaving it around top for storage and building it?
But see, that, we were gonna use that initial site again, but also, like I said, that I could talk to Chad and see on what it costs to tear it down, or sort of like that other, there was another, one of the grain silos back there. I don't know how long ago it was, but I heard that Tim Shriver got it for free as long as he moved it. It's one of those things that somebody could come in, dismantle it, and
Yeah,
take it away for free, and then all we'd have concrete.
yeah.
But,
Or if Chad wanted to take it down
yeah,
and
Yeah, it needs to
put
go.
his name.
It's,
it's,
it needs to go.
I didn't know whether it'd be a better livestock barn than the ones they've got, I don't know.
The only thing I'd be worried about is airflow. I mean, it just gets so
you'd
hot
have
in that
to, yeah,
building.
you'd have to open it up and
Yeah.
make her a true tunnel. I mean, it's not a bad idea, but if we don't take that out, I don't know where we'd set the new one at. Besides, because there's so many power poles, so many meters over there. Like we say, in a perfect world, I would love to go and
Yeah.
remove a lot of power poles and stuff, but
Yeah.
Okay, we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, thanks for coming in, guys.
We support it, so.
Letting us know.
appreciate you guys' time.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank you.
that'll work, thanks.
Hey there.
Ryan,
Ryan.
Good morning.
Morning.
you have issues?
Just wanted to give you kind of a heads up. I have a 07 Kubota side-by-side, my RTV 1100. Motor blew up the other day, crankshaft actually broke. Took it down to Whitewater. They don't like to rebuild that. They said they prefer to put just a new motor in. He said that would run $4,500 to $5,000 for a motor, $2,500 to $3,000 for labor. I looked at replacing, see what it costs, that's $20,000 to $24,000. And this only has 100 hours on it. And I like the machine, so it's all right with you. And I've got the money in capital outlay, I'm just gonna get it fixed.
07.
100 hours, you broke the crank. Were you doing hot rod?
It's always
You
good.
didn't put any oil in it?
Yeah.
No, that's the one thing he always says, well, I checked the oil, make sure you had oil. I said, yeah, there's oil in it. But yeah, you can't hot rod, that thing goes 23 miles an hour. So you can't
Not much hot rod.
But
What year did you say it is?
it's 07.
07, and it's got heat and air.
Yeah, he,
Probably,
yeah,
yeah.
And it's gonna be about $7,000.
probably closer to 8, it sounds like. And like I said, to replace with that would be, 20 to 24 from what I've seen.
Yeah, or more.
Or more. And because then it's got a diesel engine, which I like because I trust it out in the CRP
Yeah.
more than my truck. My diesel truck now I do not like out in the CRP with as hot as that
Yeah.
exhaust gets.
Yeah.
And so I would like to, that's what I like, that's why I would like to go back with it. I mean, I could go something cheaper, replace it with something cheaper, but you're not gonna get a diesel engine.
No, and you need the
and anything
cab.
else.
to-
But to be honest, if I did, I probably wouldn't go with a cab or anything, because I don't use it as much as I thought that I would, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm using it more now in CRP, but I have it for, like, there's 3 pastures up here for my sissel that I won't take a truck on. I mean, otherwise, if I can have my truck out there and have more capacity, I take it out.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I would just prefer to get it fixed, but if you guys, whatever you guys think.
I think it's up to you, whatever you think is the best, so.
Yeah.
Exactly, I'm happy with it, but yeah, he was questioning that too, he said 100 hours and a fucking great shit, so.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, it's too bad they
It's
don't
past
have
warranty.
warranty or anything.
yeah, just a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah.
And the only other thing is environmental services, we got a couple of the septics in with the new funding. It's just slow, contractors are just busy.
Yeah.
So, but we have, I forgot, that's why, because I've got 14 septics with, not completed, but with the paperwork, I have the paperwork and it's okay. I have 4 more that I have paper out with, and 4 more after that that people were talking to me about, so we're gonna probably double in 2021 what we normally do as far as septic, so I appreciate you guys working with us on what we did with the funds, because we're definitely gonna use them, so.
So you got 22 on, potentially 22
Yeah.
more.
So yeah, and if it moves the heck again, I don't know what it's gonna be like
Yeah,
next year.
Ryan, real quick, so, did I misunderstand you, or you said that you don't use the cab very much?
I mean, I just haven't used the machine as much as I
Okay,
planned on it,
yeah,
just because I can get my truck, I mean, when I.
but if you
capacity,
had
I just truck-
it, if, say we just decided we'll buy a new machine, would you want one with a cab, heat and AC on it?
Oh, I would love to have that, but
Yeah,
I wouldn't have to, because like I say, I just.
just don't use it
haven't
a
used it.
ton.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice when you're spraying to have that, a sealed cab. I mean, I do like that a lot.
Yeah,
But if we were to replace, I wouldn't have to go back with that just for that reason. But I would, like I say, I like the diesel engine, because I do feel more comfortable out in CRP with it
yeah,
than gas.
yeah, I was just thinking, $8,000 to fix it. You know, if you weren't gonna buy a cab machine, you could buy a Can-Am or a Polaris. Of course, I don't know about diesel, I don't know that they're even making, John Deere may be the only one that's making a diesel side by side.
Yes, I mean, a gas.
But you could get a new, just a base model, open cab Can-Am or Polaris for 12 or 13,000, I think.
I'd just be a little bit nervous as far as whether the diesel will run a lot cooler.
Yeah, I like the diesel and
the
the
turbo.
I like, you know, for the amount of time that you use it, it's nice to have a cab when you're out spraying.
Right.
I mean, because I have an open cab and I have a spray, or I have a closed cab
Right.
one, and I like to spray in the closed cab one.
Right. It is.
Yeah, I mean,
And
you
I
just
like
can't
this.
ever, when you have that mobility of turning sharp, you can't ever keep the wind right all the time.
Well, that's what you just use it, you know, one side of it, that's what's nice with the spray, just turn one side on, turn right, come
Yeah.
back, turn the other side.
I just wanted to understand
Yeah.
that better, because,
Well, like I say, with 100, I mean, you can see it, since it's
Yeah.
14 years old, 100 hours.
Yeah.
But like I say, yeah, it's must thistle and a few pastures, and now I'm using it more for Cerisa, because I do not, I would like to take that for a truck out. It's just,
Yeah.
when it starts melting your mud flaps, you know how hot that exhaust has got,
Yeah,
so
it's-
I don't like to take that out.
yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna have it all of
Okay.
them.
All right, thank you much.
All right.
That'll work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Misty,
Misty.
how many minutes do you need?
Oh, 10 maybe, 10, 15 minutes?
We're up early. Discuss on elected personnel.
Yes,
I'll make a motion 10 or 15.
at 10 or 15, I'd say 15, just to.
I'll make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss non-elected personnel with the commissioners, Misty, Nita, and Mike.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We go into executive session for 15 minutes for non-elected personnel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
It's been brought to our attention that we don't have anybody to take call over at Maxville for the ambulance services. So the EMS has been going over there in the mornings, picking up the ambulance from Maxville, bringing it back to St. John so they can run calls and transfers out of St. John. And then taking it back in the evening, but there's nobody since February has taken call in Maxville, so there's nobody there to run it in the evenings. So I think until we can get some EMTs, they're putting on an EMT class, maybe in the next month or so, until we can get some more people in Maxville interested in running calls and stuff like that. We'll probably just leave the medic unit over here, and as soon as we can get people over there that will take calls in the evenings, we'll move to transfer it back over there.
That was a long motion.
I didn't know that was a motion, I thought it was just
It's just a
it's just an explanation of what we're
We
doing.
kind of paraphrased it how I already had it, so we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I needed for you guys, okay?
That'll work, thanks,
All right,
Misty.
thank you.
No, no, it's just
I
a,
mean, it's just the
it
reason
was
of why we're
just
doing it.
information only, so he won't get a
All
bunch of.
right, Carolyn.
Guys can pull up chairs if you'd like.
I'm warning you right now, Carolyn, we gotta get out of here by 9:30 for the tax sale.
Okay.
I gotta get out of here before that.
Yeah. You had meetings with Carolyn before, right?
Monthly.
Monthly for the past 7 years.
We do it at 7 in the morning, so we're
Yeah.
out by 8:30, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, we wanted to talk with you about I'm sorry. First of all, I'd like to introduce Fallon Runnebaum, who started this week with the Economic Development Office as an AmeriCorps Vista. She'll be working on community development issues, including workforce, childcare, and housing.
Good.
Nice to meet you. Welcome.
So you have two new.
We have two
Two new.
currently, yes, and we continue to have one position open that would focus on public health issues.
Now, are you Kansan or are you from out of state?
I mostly a Kansan, so my stepmom lives in Halstead, so just
Oh,
down
okay.
kind of the road there. I graduated from KU, and then I've lived a little bit in Kansas City, Missouri as well, so I've kind of been all over this
Okay.
area here.
Good.
Well, let's dive in.
Okay, now everybody else knows, no other introductions needed, okay. So, we wanted to talk about the American Rescue Plan Act funding. Maybe kind of some context here. Economic Development met as a board, kind of in a strategic planning session a little over a week ago, and kind of looked at what the eligible uses are, really even like what we have learned over the course of time as people involved in economic development. We looked back to a survey that we did a year and a half ago, citizens countywide, and generally what they ranked as the most important economic needs in the eyes of citizens were job creation and business development, housing, and childcare, in that order. And so we were looking at, can we be furthering some of those kinds of issues that our citizens care about with the funding that's available this year? So Kathleen and I have spent a lot of time going through the 150 pages of regulatory guidance on this, and think I have a pretty good handle on the idea of what ARPA funds can be spent on. So there's kind of two categories of eligible counties. Anyone can spend ARPA funds on public health response, negative economic impacts, including grants and loans to businesses, grants and loans to nonprofits, water and sewer infrastructure, broadband infrastructure, premium pay to your essential workers, replace public sector revenue loss and cost of administering ARPA funds. Any county can do that pretty easily. If you can document that your geographic area is disproportionately affected by the pandemic, or that your geographic area that was disadvantaged before the pandemic began, you can also spend funds on a broader range of needs, including workforce development, affordable housing development, and childcare. So I thought that there would be value in our county establishing that we have that second tier of eligibility, so that we'll have the widest range of options with this, regardless of how you actually just, how you actually choose to spend the funds. I think there's value in establishing our county has, for one, it was disproportionately, was disadvantaged before the pandemic began, and then secondly, was disproportionately affected by COVID-related issues for us. So anyway, I have a resolution for you to consider that would, kind of
It's basically like a
codify those
it's basically like a
findings.
statement that says, and
Yeah.
then that would qualify us for being,
Right, I think it would, in the
More
course
eligible
of
uses.
being audited or whatever, I think that this would go a long way toward, showing that there's been good faith in adhering to
yeah.
all of the
Do we have a copy of
requirements.
this for Mike too? Okay,
I got copies.
yeah.
I get it to him.
Yep. So, first section, just establishes that the plan exists, several types of uses that, that the plan provides for, calls out exactly where that interim final rule states that the economic impacts of the pandemic have fallen most severely on communities and populations disadvantaged before it began. And so then I call out several different ways in which we could establish that type of disadvantage. We are certified by the Department of Treasury. Economic Development is certified as an agency as a community development entity, qualified to carry out new market tax credits, which are by definition only available to low-income and disadvantaged census tracts. So that was one. One of the 2 census tracts in Stafford County is a federal opportunity zone. That was designated about 3 years ago. It was a particular, new program that the federal government enacted, and only certain census tracts were accepted into that. And we have one of them. The banking industry is governed by the Community Reinvestment Act, under which they have to show that they are making banking activity available in all areas, including the lower income areas. And actually, this kind of played into one of our grants that we received for housing in the past year. We got points for being in a census tract that was distressed and underserved by Community Reinvestment Act standards. So that is another way in which the federal government has recognized the disadvantage and distress here. We took data from our own county. The appraiser's office shows that the average age of house in Stafford County is 90 years old. 75% of the housing stock was built prior to 1980. And then the average number of homes built per year since 2000 was 2.6, while the average number of housing units lost during that same period of time was 13.9. So that tells you part of the story of why we have a housing problem. A significant portion of the housing in Stafford County is in very poor condition, again, according to the appraiser. A total of 279 homes, or 13.9% of the inventory, are uninhabitable or in poor condition. A total of 21.2% of the homes are worth less than $20,000.
We wonder why the landfill's full.
Okay, so one of the other, they speak to the idea of, condition of health as being one of those disadvantages. So we look to the county health rankings, which is Kansas Health Foundation in particular has put a lot of emphasis on this in some of their grant making, but it is a program that ranks counties nationwide. All counties nationwide are ranked in this. And Stafford County within Kansas is 85 of 105 counties in overall health outcomes. So we don't, it's a measure of disadvantage. Median household income in Stafford County is $47,800 compared to $58,800 in Kansas and $69,000 for the United States. We've lost almost 10% of population, not only from the 2000 to 2010 period, but also from the 2010 to 20 period. And then I go into the part where we can show that in the past year and a half, our county has been more affected by the economic impact of the pandemic than others. And oil was a big part of how we could illustrate that. The oil price going down to the lowest point in 30 years in April 2020 when this whole shutdown began. Disproportionately affected a county that has it as the number 1 or 2, depending on the year, contributor to our economy. So it affected not only the jobs in drilling, finance, geotechnical, hydrographic surveying, and oil field supply. It affected operations, which would include trucking, pumping, service companies, and incomes of existing well owners and landowners. And then, kind of point to, while the effects are not fully, the effects may not be fully recognized because there's an inherent lag in valuations and property tax, and this could have an impact on the county looking into the future. So that was the economic thing we could really document. And then the other one was the widening income gap. So while the median income prior to pandemic, we can point to is lower in Kansas, lower in Stafford County than it is in Kansas or the U.S. as a whole. We can also look at updated HUD numbers, and while the median income in the United States went up during the pandemic overall, it went down in Stafford County. So, then we kind of state in there that the interim final rule identifies a non-exclusive list of uses that addresses the disproportionate negative impacts of COVID-19, and then that's where we call out the idea of building stronger communities through investment in housing and neighborhoods, and that's where we'll get a lot of the flexibility to spend money on the kinds of things that our citizens have been telling us are an issue for a while. So that includes housing, promoting healthy childhood environments, and this does not speak at all to how you would actually allocate the funding, but that you intend to spend the funding in a way that engages constituents and communities to develop plans and catalyze broader economic recovery and rebuilding. It does give a nod to the survey that we did do in 2020 that I described, where citizens kind of gave us their concerns. So, yeah, the be it resolved part, and the commission aims to expend funds in a manner that lays the foundation for a strong, equitable recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. That's taking wording from the interim final rule. By addressing, the idea of laying the foundation for a strong, equitable recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. And then by addressing the systemic economic challenges that may have contributed to the more severe impact of the pandemic within this low-income community.
All right,
Well,
there
we
was
are,
half of
because
our
we
time.
are, yeah, I know, sorry. We weren't identified as a quote, capital Q, qualified census tract. We kind of needed to show in other ways that we meet the intentions of the law, even though we aren't in one of the defined qualified census tracts by Treasury.
Okay.
Okay.
So we need to have Mike look this over?
Yep.
Whereas, so be it.
Yeah.
Legal talk.
Yeah. So with that, our economic development group met last week and kind of looked at this, and I'll let you take it from there.
Sure, so you want to pass out the green ones? Yeah, make sure they have those in front of you. We kind of, kept in mind what the county's been telling us they see as priorities, the constituents tell us they see as priorities within the county. And on the left side, I'll kind of go down here, and I kind of briefed a couple of you. This is a big ask, but we thought, well, let's address all the areas, and then if we need to prune back from there, we can. New housing construction falls under one of these areas that Carolyn just talked about, and we have a couple different ideas on maybe how that can be done to address the housing issues within the county. We currently have 10 homes under construction that are scheduled to have a pretty small amount of debt associated with them that is definitely, fairly easily cash flowed. But some of the board members feel if we could go zero debt on that, then we take 100% of the proceeds off those 10 homes and start kind of rolling forward with our own housing development program with those funds quicker than, paying the bank back. But another option under that would be adding to this housing program, which would essentially be adding a little bit more debt, but in the end, putting more homes in the county. And then jumping right down to the next line item would be housing. Go
Can I
ahead.
just, and if we built new housing using the ARPA funds, there would not be income restrictions, so it would open it up to a broader audience. Our current housing has income restrictions based on the grant funding, and so people, it's more focused on low income with those houses, so they have to meet certain requirements.
Is it age too, age and income, or just income?
So all of the units have income, and then half of the units in our portfolio we're supposed to keep at 55 or older.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So what if you don't have anybody 55 or older available to move into them?
So,
Looking.
you have to keep looking. The one thing though is with the inquiries we've received for housing, that's probably not gonna be our biggest concern.
Yeah, I would say with our average age in Stafford County, the
So
age
that is
would be less of a concern than the income.
That is a good point, and that's kind of the trade-off that we've been discussing internally is, do we, take on the debt, assuming we can get these occupied? Or do we pay for them outright? If they're occupied, then we roll forward with a plan that puts funding that ultimately we can use to do whatever development we want within our organization. So those are kind of the two trade-offs there.
So if you took this funding to where you didn't have any debt,
Mhm.
then all the income you're getting off the housing that you already have the grants for, you can take that income and start building your housing that doesn't have any restrictions. And
And
the
it
other
would
side
be
of
about
it,
60,000 a year, so
Well,
it's gonna
that's
be a
the
lag.
net.
That's
So
a net.
like, cause there is management that
Sure,
comes into
and we also
having the
talked about we
properties.
need a formal maintenance plan in place for all of our housing units, which we don't have now, that would, siphon off a little bit of that money. So it's not gonna be we're building a home every year, but maybe every third or fourth year with those proceeds, there's gonna be a 4-year lag if we pay the debt down before we build another home.
Or it may be
Unless there's more funding coming in.
or it may be a situation where you could do a development where you pay for the specials, like a street, guttering, sewer system, and then encourage people to come in and build new, bigger family type homes
Yep.
where there would be no specials associated. It wouldn't necessarily have to be, every 3 or 4 years.
It's
You-
very
There's-
unrestricted.
Yeah, there would be a lot of opportunities if you had that much cash flow.
over the years, I've seen several businesses that, instead of paying off their debt, I went ahead and said, well, if we take this and expand their debt, then it's ended up bankrupting them, because you never know what's gonna come up next year or the year after. I mean, I'm always a fan of paying off debt if you can. But that's just my
No, I definitely appreciate that insight.
Definitely, there's options within that, and we could do a hybrid of them, too, but the housing that we have under contract right now is being built. When I consider not only what we're paying the contractor, but also some of the, outside costs for legal and, land and so forth, I think it's safe to say that they're about $135,000. So looking at that exact same floor plan, we could replicate that probably
Yeah.
3 times if we didn't address debt.
So you're talking,
And if we just
Four-
did that exact floor plan, or we can maybe look at ways it can be modified and put it on a basement and see if that's something that somebody wants to sell. There's options within there.
yeah, over how many houses, 420 over 10, or
Well,
is
the
there
debt
any-
associated with our current project is 220?
200.
200.
Okay.
So that leaves a little more room in that 420 number for us to, carry out some other housing. We did talk internally about doing a similar, grant for the constituents where if you're wanting to build a home, like you said, we pay for water
Yeah.
and sewer and that service. We talked through some of those ideas too. Does that kind of cover the new housing piece, and then we can kind of talk now about, so under housing rehabilitation, we kind of talked about, there's a few, I know the Stafford Land Bank has a couple of homes that they are stalled on, don't have the funding to complete.
This would definitely be an area where we're a 501c3, we could administer these grants to the land bank. They can get those homes finished. We could administer grants to the city of Maxville or the Stafford Land Bank, or St. John Land Bank, sorry, to kind of, help Band-Aid some of these gaps in housing that, we're just not quite there. We need a little bit more to get some of these problems solved. So that number is probably a pretty flexible one because we don't really have it earmarked, but I think if you tell the cities and land banks we do have this funding available, I really think the grant request would pour in on that side. Because there's lots of people in the county who are wanting to solve some of these housing problems on their own. There's just not a lot of funding out there to do it. Then we drop down to support to business here. There's a few businesses in the county that are kind of talking about transitioning, selling, those kind of things, and we thought, well, can we start a program together where we pay for a, succession planning specialist to come in and help them through that process? I kind of have hesitation sometimes thinking if they wanted to do that, they may do it already, but maybe the cost of the succession planning tool is really too much and they just don't see the benefit.
Maybe kind of a piece of that could also be, some of the succession planning might include, if I look at what happened in the grocery store project here, we essentially created, in a way, a succession plan. It wasn't that one business directly sold to the other, but we found a way to keep a grocery business going in Stafford, or in the city of St. John. And a big piece of that was developing a feasibility study that really kind of created the roadmap of what needed to happen to make it a feasible business going forward. So with that, some feasibility analysis might be a part of that puzzle too in this.
For sure. One thing, when I first started with EcoDevo a number of years ago, I hated the idea of spending money on feasibility work. To me, I'm like, you're just throwing that money away, But it has been the opposite case through this. I mean, we never would have got the grocery store built without it. I think there's other things. We've done one on the port too now. If you don't have something in place saying this is our plan, you're not eligible for grant funding. And the feasibility study is the first step in doing that. It really is. So.
And we particularly had discussions with some of the businesses around Stafford that are interested in selling, and how can we really help them with succession and long-term planning to keep those viable.
Another piece that we talked at length about that we just kind of bundled under business in general was the idea of encouraging businesses to have internships that might be the first step to leading new young professionals here. And so we don't have a lot of businesses that are doing that, and if we maybe paid for some of the costs associated with getting some of that started.
We also have housing available for interns across the street here. Maybe if we kind of put together a package saying, okay, we're going to help pay for the intern, we're going to house them, we're going to train you how to do an internship. My sister did one at the flour mill and she cleaned Ken's office for 3 months. That's not what we want, That didn't work all that great. But maybe if we can do, that was one good idea I thought we had out of this, is maybe there are some businesses that just need a little help getting going. Because the best way to get someone to move here, we're seeing this with the Vistas, Kathleen, is to get them in the county. If you start an internship and get them here and get them to know people, they're more apt to come back and work here. You're not just going to put a flyer in a newspaper and get someone to move here. We've seen that.
And our competition, if you want to look at it that way, in terms of larger corporations, they're definitely leaning hard into this. And if people don't have the opportunity to have this experience as an alternative, I think it's going to be hard to bring them in.
So, go ahead, Todd.
Since we're running a little bit short on time, so basically, I mean, your home run wish list would be 700,000. I think we're supposed to get 800,000 from ARPA.
Yeah, 8.
But there is some question on whether the stuff in April will be coming or not. So we've already kind of committed to one project for sure. And we've got another project. It looks to me like we've probably already almost committed to around 300,000 of that, so there would only be 500,000 left. So that's 200,000 short.
One thing I would like to note, it came up in our strategic plan was there's gonna be a pretty heavy load to, what is it, the reporting and auditing on this, which is gonna be about 10%, is it 10 or 5%? It's about 40,000, so that if there's 40,000 in there that will need to go to basically swindle. and Yeah.
Swindle.
Just to keep that.
So that would have us down to about 450,000, and we may have other good projects that come up. So I mean, I guess what, you guys might keep that in mind.
Yeah,
There's
that's,
no possibility of the 700. There's probably a better possibility of 450. But, you know, we've already, well, I don't know, we'll just have to see how it works. And
That's
then when
what-
would you guys
that's
need
what
to
I
have
was
that
asking.
money? Because you can't pay it off, use to pay down debt. You
Exactly.
No,
can't
it's a
do that.
2-year, this is a 2-year process.
Sure, but on that note, if we're gonna pay down the debt on the homes, like he said, we can't use it to pay debt. So it would have to be in our bank to pay contractors to build homes this year,
Yeah.
basically. And we'd have to avoid the debt.
so
But
is,
that would be a small portion of it. I
is
don't, the
this
200,000.
hierarchy here, this 420, 175, 80, and then 125, is this just based on,
That's the numbers,
The
the
numbers,
highest number went first.
yeah, that's what I was asking priority-wise. At the top of the list, do you think that the new housing construction is your top priority as far as allocating of funds? Or do you think that housing rehabilitation, I mean, I assume just, me ignorantly just thinking this from 30,000 feet, but support to businesses and childcare may be lower than the new housing deal in your guys' mind, or, I mean, if you had to pick one,
I don't think we should short childcare right now.
well,
So,
I
I
get
guess
that, and
what-
we just talked about that
It's
with
25,000.
What I would say, and I think what we kind of talked about with the new housing construction, do we have to have a, 420,000 to do it? No. But I think it's knowing what the allocation is, where would it go? I would say probably our number one concern would probably be new development of housing. It'd be nice to do rehab, but
I think if you
There's
told us we
complication.
had 350 and we went back to the board, we would probably spread that over these 4 categories.
Okay.
I really think we would.
And I think you could probably make some impacts with some childcare planning and feasibility for less than 25, you know what I mean?
yeah,
We
and
can-
then, like he was saying, you'd have your feasibilities in place to open yourself up for more grant funding.
Well, and there's a program, not to get into the weeds, but Baby Boot Camp where they train, real leaders, not the people running the daycares, but the people that want to
It's the
get down in the
business side
weeds, the business
daycare.
side. And I really think we need to assemble a team in Stafford County to send to that. And then
And
mini
send
grants for
person.
home-based daycares, that's a good way to get it running right now,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I guess when I said that may be the lowest, I was thinking of like building a daycare and facilitating it to where
Sure.
there's just not enough funds to do that.
Yeah.
However, there's plenty enough funds to send people to stuff like you're talking
Yeah.
about. and you
That is the
understand-
hardest nut to crack, and I've always said from the beginning, I personally don't know how to do it. And this Baby Boot Camp is the only thing I've seen where they're taking business leaders in your community and training them. This is what we've done in other communities, this is how it works. And to me, I know nothing about it, that's,
Business model to run a cash flow.
yeah,
a daycare
Yeah.
center,
Yeah.
small
and
business.
it's extremely hard to do.
I think on the daycare, the biggest challenge is finding individuals to do it. I mean, the right individual, because not just everybody
Yeah.
has that in them.
But if you could send them to this boot camp deal and show them the nuts and bolts behind the business side of it, it may facilitate.
I really think that it's almost gonna have to be in partnership with the schools. I mean, that to me would be the only way to get enough funding in to do it, but I don't know. I haven't gone to boot camp, so.
Put that on your list of things. to do.
Minutes.
I make
We
a
gotta
motion,
cut this.
yep, I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the August 25th, 2021 meeting.
Sorry.
Moving second, we adopt the minutes of August 25th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried.
We're gonna talk about
So,
this
yeah.
funding some more. We had a request just before you guys from the fair board. We're gonna get together and hammer out some numbers and figure out, I mean, obviously, we want to spend the money and we want to do the best that we can with it. So we're gonna try to hammer out some funds, and then if we could get you a gross dollar amount that we think would work for everyone, then you guys can go back to the drawing board and
Of
see
course.
how to allocate those.
I thought Tabor made a good point in the hall earlier, that, what I think we're trying to do too is not just look at it as an allocation for the organization of economic development, but the idea that we're trying to deliver the service to the county that the citizens have indicated they want, that we've all talked about for a long time. We've just got the organizational capacity to do that. You know, the county could be doing housing development itself under, you know, some of these provisions, but we know that that's not what you're set up to do. We're hopefully, you know, the kind of, in a position, not only with our organizational mission, but also kind of some of the experience we've had with other grants that we can carry out. Honestly, you know, even stuff, I don't know, I mean, like, I don't know, fair building, how that works, who actually administers that.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
Our main goal is to try to do as much good for Stafford County as we can with this money.
Right.
Yep.
So,
Thanks for your time, guys.
thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Anything else? Carol, where's your?